Alright, hello and welcome everybody to something a little different than usual. The Starlight Celebration quest line is now done and we saw something really special to me featured in there that I wanted to share with you guys today. Namely the Spiced Punch, or for this one is going to be Spiced Wine or Mulled Wine or Glögg or however you pronounce it. That being said, this does include alcohol, so if you are under 21 or legal drinking age in your country, you gotta go, you gotta get out. I can't have you here, I'm not getting in trouble for you. Anyway, for ingredients, this is pretty simple and straightforward. You're going to need a red wine, preferably a Merlot. From what I've heard, I thought I was getting Merlot, ended up picking up the Pinot Noir version of this, so I know. The old joke of Final Fantasy players can't read, all that stuff, and your mom. So, the other stuff that you're gonna need are allspice. I don't have any nutmeg, but you can add that. Cloves, orange, cinnamon sticks, cardamom pods, and ginger. This is my first time using ginger because we haven't had all the stuff together, and I guess I still don't because I'm missing the nutmeg, but whatever.
It's over there.
Nutmeg?
Powder.
Do we?
Ground nutmeg.
I didn't see it.
It's over there.
And nutmeg, which we've had the whole time. Now also before we get started, something that you might need if you don't have a strainer is some cheesecloth and some cooking twine. I bought these specifically for this time. This is a lot of twine, which is probably gonna last the next decade or so, but now I have it, so. The first step is going to be having our saucepan. I'm gonna heat it up a little bit and we're gonna warm up the dry ingredients to make them a little bit more fragrant before we put them into the wine itself. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. All right, I think the pan is sufficiently warmed up, so we're gonna add the stuff in right now. Decided to not do that on camera because that would be kind of boring. Almost as boring as when you're reading these recipes online and they won't shut up about their life story leading up to it. Thankfully, most of the websites have a skip to recipe after only the recipe app or website or whatever gained popularity. So now we just have to wait until it's even more fragrant than it is right now, apparently. I feel like a chef. All right, we roasted them for about 3 to 5 minutes. They're smelling extra fragrant. So now the next thing is to get them onto the cheesecloth. And well, first of all, we have to make sure that the cardamom pods, first of all, we have to make sure the cardamom pods are lightly cracked because we want the full essence of the pod. So there are a couple ways that you can do the cheesecloth. You can wrap it up and make it into a little sack, but in order for it to be fully submerged, I like the Tootsie Roll method. So we're gonna make sure this is a bit longer. First try. Now I wanna do this on the cheesecloth first because the seeds are really, really small. So I'm gonna pick these out here real quick. Now, while I do this, I'm gonna talk to you about the proportions here. Per bottle of wine, it's usually about 2 cinnamon sticks, 5 whole allspice, 3 cloves, and 10 to 15 cardamom pods. Not even gonna try anymore. And I'm doing 2 bottles at once, so just use your brain and double that for what we're gonna be working with. Also, about the recipes that I'm looking at call for 2 tablespoons of thinly sliced ginger, ended up about 16 grams. I'm hoping that I got that right. So anyway, we got a little tenderizer here and just gonna lightly crack it. Perfect. Hang on, I think we missed one. All right, and then we put these all together in here, along with our ginger. Honestly, the bigger stuff you don't have to worry about so much being in this because you can just fish them out. And if you don't want to do the cheesecloth method, you could always just throw it all in the pan and then just sieve it out later. Let's see, is this enough to go around? Just makes cleanup a little easier. I'm still gonna have to probably put some cheesecloth over the funnel When I take it out, for the nutmeg.
When did you first have this glove?
Oh, you want me to go into the long, irrelevant story of my first introduction to this warm, Christmassy drink?
Yes.
It was at my mom's house, and she had a pre-made bottle that you were supposed to add to wine. She introduced it to me, and I never heard of having warm wine before, but I've always been kind of a wino, so not like hardcore or anything. Don't ask me to answer any questions. But I tried it, and I immediately fell in love with it. And then we were kind of strapped for cash while we were starting to go out on our own, and figured I could just try and make it myself. And the initial upfront cost to get all this stuff is a little pricey, but the wine can be cheap because you're adding in all the flavors and it doesn't really matter. So most recipes, just like cheap wine's fine. Drier the better because you're gonna be adding in sugar and all these seasonings and stuff. So every year, so around Thanksgiving, I start making this stuff and experiment with a little bit every time. Where's the wine opener? I blame it on you redoing the kitchen, but this hasn't moved, so. I'm gonna try and make sure that these are all open and ready. We're gonna use the bottles later to put the stuff back in. So have some, either the corks or some stoppers later on. Some of the other bottles of wine have the screw caps. So that works as well, but be resourceful. Okay, now this stage is the wine, the orange, and the sugar. So we're gonna have our warmed up saucepan here, which is hopefully not gonna burn anything. Just gonna, there we go. It's a little sizzly. We're fine. Delicious. You may have noticed this white rum over here. Be like, Drak, what a drunk are you? This is actually specifically for this, and I have two because I forgot we had this one. Because when I called home, I asked if we had any more of the alcohol we used last time, and someone told me no.
It's almost empty.
It was halfway.
That's almost empty with alcohol.
Okay. So for this, it's about a quarter cup, however much your alcoholic ass wants to put in there, but about a quarter cup per bottle. So we're gonna put in half. A real cooking show would have had this all laid out before, but I don't have that level of preparation. Anyway, this is supposed to go to a simmer, not a boil. So we're gonna put this up to about 4 on our stove, 4 in a little bit. Electric stoves are a little harder to do, but in order to get a gas line over here to have a real stove, would be extremely expensive, unfortunately. So we're gonna do that, and then we're going to juice our oranges. Now don't throw these away because we're gonna be using the peel as well. Juice it. And then if you don't want to be wasteful, you can still eat the pulp. Very good for you. Fibrous. Now, some recipes have you add the wine in right after you toast the dry ingredients, but then you don't get to do the funnest part of this whole process, which is lighting it on fire. Now, I should mention, if you're gonna light this on fire, make sure you have a lid to put out the fire and a heat-resistant glove to protect your hand while adding the sugar while it's on fire. I'm not responsible for any of you idiots that get burned doing this. Now, an alternative while we're waiting for this to warm up is making a simple syrup and incorporating whatever other flavors or whatnot to that, and then adding it in after you've done the whole steeping process. I say that because my first attempt this year followed the right amount of sugar, but gave me an extremely bad headache. So then I did a little bit less and it was really dry. So making the simple syrup allows you to kind of adjust it as you go. And if you've got people who are a little bit more sweet averse in your household, then you can just make the simple syrup instead. And then everybody kind of gets their own level of sweetness. So last time I did a quarter cup of sugar for 1 bottle, or 1 and a little extra. So this time I'm going to do 3/4 of a cup. of sugar for 2 bottles. And then if that's not enough later on, because this does have a dry wine, which means it will taste very, very dry with a lot of these really strong seasonings, which is an interesting flavor to get hit right in the back of your throat. Giggity. Let me get the sugar out. If you're curious about simple syrup, it's 1 part water, 1 part sugar, and that's it. You warm up the water, add the sugar, let it dissolve, and you've got your simple syrup. I did 1 cup and 1 cup, and it's kind of the viscosity that you'll have there, and it's got a light sweetness, and you can use it for coffee, you can use it for cocktails, and you can use it for mulled wine. The original recipe that I was going off of this year was 3/4 of a cup for 1 bottle. Yeah, that was a lot.
So sweet.
Yep, so this should be a more moderate amount. And the lid, specifically made for the pan. It's going to cover it. And then, okay, look at that. We got some nice little bubbles. We're simmering. That's exactly where we want to be. Just a light simmer. Before I go into that, I need to make sure the peels are cleanly off. Have yourself a healthy little snack before you get drunk. I mean, don't get drunk. You drink responsibly. Oh. All right, this is going to be going for 1 minute. Keep that there. Get my glove right here. Now make sure that when you're doing this as well, the handle is not sticking out. I showed this to my mother to show how cool the fire was. And she saw the handle sticking out and started lamenting on how she'd failed as a parent. I have no idea if that has to do with the wine or not, but so let there be light. And then we slowly add. Ooh, you are being
We're responsible adults playing with fire.
called cooking.
Yes.
Yeah, it's still a lot of sugar.
How long do we let it burn?
It was supposed to be for 1 minute, and then I didn't hit start on the timer. So
30 more seconds.
yeah. And then it's all done. And we're ready to add our other stuff. Around this point, I'm gonna just stir this for a little bit while the heat is on. Make sure that the sugar is not gonna get stuck to the bottom of the pan. This is essentially the process of the simple sugar anyway. You're warming up the liquid, adding in the sugar, letting it dissolve, and then, though I think in the simple syrup you can add stuff a little earlier while you're warming the water to give it an extra fragrance, like I did with some orange peels. And there, we're gonna add these in here. Careful not to splash. Drak. And our lovely little Tootsie Roll of spices.
How long do we let it simmer in there?
Well, now that the fire is done, we've added in everything. Turn off the heat, cover it up, and we're gonna let it sit for about an hour or 2, just to let all the fragrances and stuff incorporate, and then we'll see how it tastes. All right, it's been about an hour and some change, and I think it's done steeping, so let's pour some out and see how it tastes. Now, over an hour, this should be sufficiently cooled so that we can transfer it to the bottle here. I did add the nutmeg after the fact. I totally forgot to do it on camera, but I did about a half a tablespoon. I think that should be good for the amount that we have here. So let's go over here. I got the cheesecloth tied up here on a funnel so that if any of the nutmeg and whatnot or pulp from the orange, the cheesecloth will catch it and it should be good. So I'm gonna stop there and give this the old taste-a-roo. So I'm gonna be enjoying this in our Hang In There Fat Cat mug, which is available on our merch store. Link in the description. So let's pour some of this out and see how it tastes. That's really good. I think I actually want some of the flavors to steep a little bit longer, so I'm gonna leave it cooling with all the stuff in there all the spices and whatnot for probably another 30 minutes to make sure that the flavors are all really incorporated. But overall, I think the flavors are really good here. It's always a little different every time. It changes with the base wine that you have, so experiment until you have one, or if you have a wine that you prefer, try use that. Again, drier works because you're adding in a lot of sweetness with the orange juice and the added sugar, and you can mix and match to your desired preference. Some people also add raisins and sliced almonds either during the process there or as garnishes. I don't like a whole bunch of extra stuff in my drinks, so I'm just doing it straight here. But that's it. If this sounds good to you, feel free to try it out. Hope you enjoy it. And until next time, guys, Merry Christmas, God bless you all, and we will see you in the next one.